Ryan and Rich welcome you to the RNR Gus Stuff podcast.
Good morning, peeps. Thank you for coming back to our journey. We have a good one for you today, where I think Rich might have had to walk the plank and found some retro stuff at the bottom. I don't understand, but hey, that's where we're going. How you doing today, Rich?
Dude, I love the plank reference because we're going to be talking about my cruise. It's that time of year. People are taking vacations.
Oh
And
yeah.
we did some of your stuff a little earlier, and then some of my stuff happened, and we're doing a little follow-up on that. But yeah, planks, cruises, I'm really glad I didn't go over the plank. I'm really
Yeah,
glad
I,
I stayed away from the edges.
oh, my intel was off. You did not have to walk the plank.
That's right.
I I thought something might have went astray. But tell us about, where did you go on a cruise?
They did not send me to the brig either. So it was a really good experience. One, I love to cruise. It is one of those things that, man, you really get away from work. You really get away from life.
Mhm.
You
Oh,
really
yeah.
end up in a bubble. And I am down here in the great, no ability to run our electricity state of Texas. And
Good.
I normally go out of Galveston. And that means in the last 4 trips I've taken out of Galveston over the past 10 years, you go down to Mexico and, different ports, Belize. And, it's very similar. It's always kind of the same feeling. Maybe you go for a 5 or 7. But this time, my sister called me and said, let's do something bigger, like in 2 years. And that's what we did. We planned it. And we flew to Seattle and did a Alaska cruise. So definitely bucket list item, man. It is really, really neat up in that area. So and by the way, dear listener, if you ever go to a cruise out of Seattle and you have to fly in, be sure to fly in the day before. I know
Oh,
that's
yeah.
usually the common logic.
Yeah, definitely. You always want to go that extra day. Be prepared. Who knows what's going to happen? Some weather event somewhere, maybe not even where you are, is going to mess with the fact that your plane's not where it needs to be and ain't coming to get you.
Literally, my sister's flight the day before, she did the right thing, gets delayed 4 hours. The people
Oh, wow.
in front of her had a 2 p.m. leave time from the ship dock. They made it to the
Ooh.
ship. They did make it, but they were sweating bullets. And
Oh, yeah.
we were all sitting there talking, and it was a 4-hour delay. And they were like, oh my God, are we going to miss our cruise? Because the cruise does not wait for you. It just goes.
Oh.
So a little bit of good advice there. But it was probably the most expensive cruise I've ever taken because of air flights. And Alaska cruises are just a little more. And the ports were a little more expensive than going down to Mexico, as you can imagine. And but I'll tell you, the sights, they were just amazing. From seeing whales outside the boat, from being able to go on shore and kind of explore. And I'll be honest,
that's cool.
I love Mexico, and I'm not really afraid of too many things. But, I'm not going to just go walking around on my own outside in Mexico, right? I'm just not going to hit Belize and go, hey, let's go for a hike and let's go find something. I don't know the area. I don't know the laws. There's so many pieces of the puzzle I'm not familiar with. Whereas in Alaska, oh yeah, you're in a state. You're just not in a connected state. And
Correct.
and it was awesome. I know this was a big trip. My sister, her husband, and child came. Ty, pretty awesome kid. Then my daughter and her boyfriend, and me and my girlfriend. And everyone went and did different things. And so as we hit from like Skagway, Juneau, and I think a couple other ports that for some reason I'm not remembering because all the activities kind of blurred together. Lots of beautiful scenes. We did this tour on a bus, man, that we drove into Canada, turned around and came back. And when I tell you the views are just majestic, unspoiled, it is. I mean, you don't see telephone poles. You know what I mean? You don't see electric poles.
Sure. They're just not all over the place, right? Now, did you do anything in Seattle before you went, or you just go to Seattle, hang out, and then get on the ship?
Okay, I did the hang out and get on the ship. Now, my sister stuck around, and they did things for like an extra day in Seattle. my daughter was on her Drive National Parks her trip. They drove around for 40 days and went to national parks.
Yeah.
And this was kind of near the end of it. So they actually had time in Seattle with the boyfriend's family. And so they explored. Our biggest exploration, like Seattle, was one of our ports was British Columbia. Vancouver, British Columbia? Is that how you say it?
I think,
Vancouver.
yes. It's just right across them. They're right beside each other. There's Vancouver, Washington, I believe, and then there's Vancouver, British Columbia, and they're like right there. Now, I've never been there. I've been to Seattle. So I've done the Space Needle at Seattle. I was curious if you did any of that stuff. I've never been to Alaska, so I haven't done the Alaska cruise. And I haven't taken anywhere near the number of cruises you have. We've only done 2.
Well, I would recommend line up if Disney does one in Alaska. I would get up there and do that because it is like I said in Skagway. We went and did gold painting, and so you got lunch, you learned to pan for gold. We had a great time on that activity, and all the people you're meeting, they almost all seem to be seasonal workers. Like one of the towns we were in, we were talking with one of the workers, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we have to leave by this date, and if we don't leave by that date, the snow starts coming, and this town becomes its own. You better have all your food, better have all your water, better have all your medication, better have all your health care, because it gets snowed and iced in, and no one's coming back until the beginning of next year."
Pretty much, yeah. It's just, I've seen some. I've gone down YouTube rabbit holes where they've been like interviewing people in different parts of Alaska, and they're like, "Yeah, we're ordering 6 months worth of stuff," or this one local store, like every month they go take a ship over to wherever to go get all their preserves, and then they can sell it to the local town. But it's not like our grocery store. It's like, oh, they're out of it. They'll have it in like 3 days or 2 days. It's none of that kind of stuff. So it's like, but I've never been there. I've only watched it from YouTube. You've seen it firsthand.
And that's pretty cool. You bring up the grocery store. That was, it sounds so silly. Sarah and I, when we got to Juneau, we actually just walked and we checked things out in the town, and we stopped in at a few bars, local bars, and just kind of hung out and had a beer. And we went to a distillery, but we saw their grocery store. And just like when we go to Germany, it's like, oh, let's go in the grocery store. Let's see what things are like in the grocery store. I just want to see what people do. And sure enough, it was a really small grocery store. And it only had a few of every item. Wasn't Sam's or Walmart, let me tell you that. And it was expensive, cost more. But it was really neat to see that you're right. There is not every single thing in the world coming together in those grocery stores because they got to get it there. It was much sparser, fewer item selections, but they did, plenty of stuff. I'm sure they had plenty of stuff for the population that was there. It's just, you're right. I bet sometimes they have to wait 3 weeks. I bet there's not an Amazon warehouse pulling things out in 2-day delivery up there. I say that. I wonder.
I don't know. That'd be interesting.
I'd say that's impossible. Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. But
I bet there is from the, like Anchorage or some of the bigger cities. But if you're out in some of these little towns, my understanding is you don't get to drive to them. You're getting there from boat or you're flying in. And that's it. There's not a road.
There isn't. It's amazing how desolate some of those areas can be. When you hit these ports, if anybody ever goes, hey, I do want to go do an Alaska cruise, and you're listening to this, do realize all the ports are just like in Mexico, that there's a certain area where they've built it for the cruise ship. And there's definitely areas they didn't build for the cruise ship. I like to go to the ones they didn't, which are like the town, the place. We still walk through the cruise ship row, where you can buy all your jewelry and your silver and, buy all the food. Ryan, you and I have had many, many meals together. But one thing we've not is, are you a big fish eater? Do you like crab and lots of fish and shrimp? What's your thoughts on that?
I like some fish. I don't like the really fishy tasting fish, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm more in the, I like shrimp. I like shrimp and stuff quite a bit. I like lobster. I'm big on, I like crab.
Okay.
Salmon, I'll eat it periodically because it's more on the fishy side. Some stuff I'll eat, but there's not oh, this is the thing I'm really going for all the time. Now, if I'm getting a steak, I'm fine with the lobster to go with it, lobster tail. I only want the tail. I don't want the thing looking at me. Or I want the shrimp with it, grilled shrimp with on the Barbie with. Yeah, bring that. I'm all in.
And you would definitely have enjoyed some parts of this because it was. I'm not a big crab eater. I'm not a big lobster eater. I do like a little salmon here and there, and I do like shrimp. Not cocktail, but like shrimp grilled or shrimp prepared. Garlic shrimp. I do like those kind of ideas, but. Everyone that liked the crab, there were plenty of places that you could go and have that really fresh Alaskan crab. So that would that would be neat. That was neat for a lot of people. And all the eating off the ship is pretty cool. But you and I both know cruises have great food, and we had some great dinners. We had some great specialty dinners. Ryan, just so everyone knows, dear listener, Ryan is not a big drinker, but Rich drinks the rest that he doesn't drink for him. So I take in the world, I take care of his drinking and do it for him. And so I got the drink package. And so we found our little bar that was right near our room that was cool people. And so, I'd walk up at 11 and they're like, Mr. Rich, here's your drink. And, as I'm wrapping up at 2 a.m., Mr. Rich, here's your last drink. And we found a great spot for drinks and we played games. They had a little area off to the side where you could sit maybe 10 people around a big table and we would set up in there. Everybody would come and we'd play Uno. We would play, what was the game you helped me get from Board Game Geek Con one year? The 16-bit.
Oh, that Fires of Eldorado.
Fires of Eldorado. Brought that. It's always a winner. That's always a winner game. So, we talk about gaming and retro tech and
good.
Folks, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, you know what I want? Is a game that's like Pandemic, but not Pandemic, and much easier rules. And
definitely.
The way the map is made is by flipping cards. So the map's never the same. Your goal spots always change.
Yeah, the good tile placement. Good to go, and it's 16-bit themed. So it's it has the 16-bit video or graphics theme to it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's a win.
It's a fun little game. And like you mentioned, one of the characters kind of looks like, but isn't Cloud from Final Fantasy VII. So,
funny.
You know what I mean? So they have some of that flair in there that remind you of those SNES time or NES.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a great time. Everybody loved playing that. I probably brought 3 other games for some reason I can't think off the top of my head. I should have prepared a little better. But that was a fun part, too, is in the evenings we could just sit down in these big comfy chairs and we could play a game. Oh, I made a scavenger hunt for the family. So
did you?
Before the cruise even left, I sat down and worked out a point system to where I had everybody split into teams of 2.
Okay.
And they had to go on a scavenger hunt, and there was no running. That was one of the rules. Just so we didn't have any issues like that.
Yeah.
Okay. You took your phone, your phone with you. And I marked areas. And then even during the first 3 days, I saw things that I added to the list to where then I texted each member of the party a list with point values. And they had 30 minutes. So they had to go out, make some decisions on what they wanted to photograph and get back within 30 because you had to be back in 30 or you didn't win. And
they just have to photograph the thing, or do they have to do something stupid in front of the thing with that?
There were multiples of both of those. One was you need to have a picture with an officer of the boat. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So you had to find an officer, say, are you an officer? Yes. And then you had to get in an USSI with them and take a picture. But then there were other ones that were like, there was an area of the boat in a hallway that had it had silver tree trunks like birch. So it was an artistic setup. So imagine a bunch of birch trees in a row and a bunch of birch trees that are silver. So it's artistic. And so I put the silver forest is what I wrote down as what you needed to take a picture of. They had bumper cars on this boat. And so
Really?
I had one that said sit in a bumper car. So they had to find out where the bumper cars were. And the bumper cars weren't being used. So they had to go get in the bumper car and get a picture in the bumper car. So yes, there were some of those things that I slipped in there too.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
This sounds very familiar to an activity we did once when we may have worked together in the past.
Dude, how'd you know?
Because
How'd you know?
I ran across the badge we had got from that event. That was when was that? Like 99, 2000?
Oh my God, dude. I was my daughter even born yet when we did that?
No.
Yeah, that
That
was
before the company imploded. So yeah.
Yeah, my daughter's old enough to drink now, by the way. So that's how long ago that is.
Yes, it's been a while.
It was.
That one was.
Tell everybody what we did. Tell everybody what we did and where we were.
Oh, that was a long time ago where we did as .com money for a scavenger hunt in the Opryland Hotel in Nashville.
It was
so
great.
Cool. They gave us little disposable Polaroid cameras, so you took a picture and it spit out the thing and you had to wave it so it would develop, and you had to go find these things and do something dumb with the team. Like everybody, I think, had to be in it, and you had to do some weird pose. It was great. So this sounded very much like that.
You busted me, dude. You busted me. It's exactly what I copied. It was Destination Slingshot was the name of the time that we were doing that team building. It was team building.
Yes.
And it was called Destination Slingshot. We worked for a company called Slingshot that then became Quest Digital Media way back in the day. So yeah, interesting that you figured out I was copying that. That's exactly what I did. Now, the idea of a photo scavenger hunt isn't that unique. But ever since then, that's always kind of something that comes up in my head as something fun to do. So we definitely got some gaming in. We got some drinking in. We made new friends. We had great times as a family. And on a cruise, our family has such a great attitude of, okay, let's all get together at 5. And what do y'all want to do at 5? Okay, yeah, let's do that. And then no one cares what anybody else does the rest of the day. And sometimes you bump into each other, and sometimes you get together and you make plans with other people that are part of the family, but you don't need to have the whole damn family involved. And then the people that aren't involved don't get their feelings hurt because they realize they don't need to be in every single thing. So I have a very well traveling family, and that makes these things work, because I wouldn't want to do one of these where every minute's accounted for and everyone has to meet for breakfast at 8:30. Because, dude, some mornings I don't want to get up till 10.
Right. You're on vacation.
Yeah. I don't want to get up at 8:30. I don't want to do that. I don't want to meet you every single second of the day. Love you, but I don't want to do that. So I have a real good family like that. So we travel well. And maybe we'll do another cruise in 2 years or so. That seems to be our kind of cadence, maybe 3 years. Get another one, but maybe out of New Orleans or something like that this time. So we can do I've gone out of the New Orleans port in the past too. It's really fun because you get there the day before and you party in New Orleans. And you go on the boat. You have a great time seeing all the history and that jazz. So
have you been there for any kind of like other celebrations in New Orleans or anything?
Just partying, just going with a friend. Yeah. Just partying along those lines. Yourself, you ever been down there?
No, never been there.
I think so. I didn't think that was on you, because that definitely there's a heavy context of drinking when you go to New Orleans, and but that's kind of part of the reason to go there.
Yeah, I think there's some other more historical stuff too, but it hasn't bubbled up to be important enough for us to spend the time. That's not the next thing we wanted to go do.
Right.
So
they have some.
So now that you did your cruise. You didn't have to walk the plank. I guess I had some bad intel. But did you have to drive back or anything? Or what's going on? I heard there was a little circle with like a peace symbol thing in the middle now.
Retro. It's not a retro computer. We've talked a little bit about the VDub in the past.
Right.
I have been sorely lacking on my retro computer time. I really have. I've just been really lacking. With Gen Con, I got that program done that I'd been working on that we'll chat about. But working on stuff, I've been working on the Volkswagen. So it is one of those that I have now uncovered more rust. I've uncovered more things. So I had to get in the special Bondo, and I had to strip everything down and put rust preventative on. So the Volkswagen did not go with us. It is so close to being ready for a trip. I have the new front windshield in. I've got it spaced. This weekend, I'm hoping to get it in place and drill my holes and get it mounted. And so once the front windshield's in, it can go. You know, I can go anywhere I want at that point. You know, Sarah and I can go do some trips, but we're going to now wait till the fall because we don't like hot weather camping. We are not hot weather campers. Neither of us want to sweat at night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We want a little comfort. We like cold weather camping.
Fair enough. So is it, are you roadworthy at this point?
Oh, yeah. The only reason it can't go anywhere now is it doesn't have a front windshield. I took the old one out. The old one had a crack in it, like a nice 7-inch crack that the guy said had always been there, and it never got any bigger on us, and it wasn't in any of the line of sight, but I just didn't like it having a crack. There was a part of me that went, when did we start making tempered glass windshields, right? There was a part of me that was like, when did we start doing that? This thing's from the 70s, right? And it turns out it was tempered because once I got it out and broke it, it was tempered glass. But there was a part of me that was like, I just don't want a windshield that could shatter into a million pieces. I just don't want that. So, and it didn't have a little tempered sign on it. You know how you can look at your front windshield now and you can see the little logo for the type of manufacturer of glass it is? This was just a straight piece of glass. And we didn't want to risk it. So we ordered in a new windshield. And this one's a Safari windshield that actually, it goes in and then you can unlatch it and open it and lock it into place so air can come into your vehicle. Now, you don't do it while you're driving. That's just, you don't do it.
Come on, man.
You do it. You do it when you're parked and you pop them open so you can get some airflow through the vehicle. And so
that's a nice upgrade.
It's a good upgrade. And so, and that was one that got to take a while because once I got the old windshield off, that's when I found a ton of rust damage. And so all that had to be remediated and built back up for strength. And so I went through that process. Cassidy was helping me the other day because, you know, I got the driver's side door all cleaned up. All the cranks are working. All the locks are working. I put in Dynamat to help with sound absorption and also keep heat in. I then resealed it with its vapor barrier and put a new door panel on. So I got that done. And so Cassidy, she's like, what's next? And I go, well, I need to strip all the flooring up. And I got to get all the flooring up and I got to clean all that and look for any problems. Wow. We found where the previous owner had a hole. And I have to say this for everybody to kind of understand. Think about a good textbook from your college days, right? It's bigger than 8.5 by, it's maybe like 8.5 by 11. So think of a textbook or a piece of paper. There was a rusted out area that big. So the guy before me put a piece of wood underneath and then he put Bondo, just regular Bondo. And then he put a piece of wood on top and he screwed the two pieces of wood together. It was a valiant effort. Love the effort. He gets an A for effort or an E for effort. So Cassidy got all the old flooring up and started cleaning and stripping all the sticky material and adhesive off. Found that section. We took the top piece of wood off and then realized what the hell it was. And she broke about half of it out of the way. So now I've got to go in and take a new piece of metal and I'll probably just pop rivet it. I'll clear out the hole, right? I'll make the hole as clean as possible. I'll put a piece of new metal over it and pop rivet it to the good metal, and then Bondo seal that up probably from the bottom and along the edges. So that's kind of my next project after the windshield's in. But I could drive with a hole in the bottom of the floorboard. I mean, it could drive tomorrow. It's completely transmission, suspension, linkage, engine. It's in great shape. So its bones are really solid. It's been a lot of work on the aesthetics, which is really where I can do things. I can't tear an engine apart. I don't want to. I mean, I don't even want to think about tearing an engine apart. I don't want to work on a transmission. I don't want to work on joints and axles and CVs. I don't want to do any of that. But I do like doing the aesthetic work. You know what I mean? I like when I got done with that passenger or the driver's side door, and it was clean, and all the latches were working, and everything was back to where it needed to be. And I got new solar panels. That just looks beautiful. I love the way that comes out. So those are some of the fun things on that. But I'm telling you, dude, that's retro wise. The only thing I've done recently since Gen Con was the program.
Okay. How does program? Before we get to the program, though, which I'm super interested in. The only thing you might want to do to your V-Dub is drop an electric motor in it and an 80 kilowatt battery.
Oh, I would do that. I would love that, dude. I would. It has. I was looking at it, and it was Sarah and I were just kind of BSing. And it's her Volkswagen. I'm doing all the heavy lifting on it. She picked it up off of a Facebook ad. I was like, if we pulled all this stuff out, you could put a hell of a battery system and then put all the stuff back in. You would lose, what would you lose? 4 inches where the batteries are? I mean,
depends on what battery you put in it.
How you keep them nice and flat, right? You could put a hell of a battery. And then powering that thing, I mean, it has like a 1600cc engine. I'm sure I could get 2 motors and I could have a hot rod Volkswagen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you probably don't even need that.
Just one.
Mine's a single motor in my Bolt, both of our Bolts, and they're 200 horsepower single motors.
Wow.
Or 200 horsepower equivalent single motors.
And I'm not even smart enough to tell you, and I'm going to do this 1600cc engine, VW bus, horsepower.
Yeah, no idea what.
I don't know if I can tell. I'm not that smart, man. I see. Well, okay. How much horsepower does this? 60. So they're saying generically it's around a 60 horsepower engine.
That explains a lot why you can't get it above about 50 mile an hour.
That's right. I think I talked about one of the episodes. I'm going to put I'm going to use the Cricut and print a little sign for the back windshield that says, "I do not go above 65. Sorry." And so everybody knows when they get behind me, I can't go above 65.
It's not physically possible.
Think about when that thing came out. Going 65, 70 was pretty normal. 55 was normal on the highways. 55.
Well, especially after all the gas shortages.
Oh yeah.
All that happiness. But, all right, cool. It was a good sidetrack, good trip. Now, tell me about this program. What have you been doing, and how did you get all this time at Gen Con to work on a program? Shouldn't we have been playing games?
Well, here's what I did. I was using my 64C original equipment and started saying, you know what? I love text adventures. I want to write my own text adventure. And then I said, you know what I should do is look for books on how to write text adventures. And I found, and I mean, I've talked about this in the past. I found online at Internet Archives, create your own Commodore 64 text adventure. And I said, that's perfect. I went through like 5 books, so I found that one. And so I would sit down at night and I would do 100 lines of code. And I'd save it right to the disk. Mm-hmm. I was using a 1541 and everything. I got that 1541 Pi, but I was actually doing it to a disk. That's how I was feeling. And then I got to the point that it's a lot of lines of code. A lot of lines of code. And I said, you know what? I need to move this over to the D64, the Pi version, so I can have that and I can bring it over to my computer. I can work with it on my laptop because I needed to have more of an environment for troubleshooting than I was getting using the original C64. I was, I don't know what, 80% done, 85. Gen Con came up. I had all those flights. And I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to finish this on the plane. And sure enough, I got it done. And then I started fixing things. So there was very little code troubleshooting. My typos were like, instead of print, I put PRNIT, right? There was I did not find any programmatic. What's the word? Programmatic problems with the program that they wrote. I didn't find anything. It was all my fault that I had to troubleshoot code. Was my misspellings.
Okay, so no logic errors or nothing like that. So that's good.
And then I started fixing all their problems where they forgot to put a space between 2 words or they misspelled a word. I started fixing all their issues and I got all that done. And I came back home and I was running it and I was like, wow, this is a really confusing program. It needs a help section. It needs some explanation. I sat Sarah down. I said, hey, try this program. And she got frustrated because she's like, well, because sometimes you type a whole word, sometimes you just type one letter, sometimes you do a Y or a no, and sometimes you do east, west, no. I mean, it was just there was some UI issues. Is that fair to say? Because even though it's a text adventure, there's UI issues?
It was probably built in pieces. So they built some piece, and then maybe months later they built another piece and didn't really pay attention to the inconsistencies of that wasn't a thing. At that point, it was more like, let's just make this goofy thing work, and I want to go play the game.
And then we talked about doing a GitHub one time, and I was like, I need to distribute this now that I'm done. So I actually went back after Gen Con and went to one of the earlier versions and made sure it was completely true to the book, that it had grammar issues, that it had, everything it did, I tried to do except for remarks, because sometimes I did my own shorthand. And I made a GitHub, Ryan.
Oh,
I have a GitHub.
Did you build a release then with that as being release 1.0?
I don't know if I did it right. We're going to have to look together someday. But I believe I did call 1.0. And I put the D64 image up. And then I found a program that let me pull the PRG out. And then I actually dumped the lines of code into a text file. So from my GitHub location, you can either grab a D64, you can grab the program file, or you can just grab the lines of code in a text file and go from there. So I thought that was really neat to do. And I'm going to now build my version where I have a help screen. I fix all the grammar errors. I get some consistency in command entry and talk about what people need to do. Because there's one spot where you just don't know what to type in. You just don't know. It asks you a question, but they give you context. So I'll go fix those areas and I'll do a fork. Is that right? Is that what I call that, a fork then?
Nope, this is yours. Forks if you're taking somebody else's and then you want to build upon theirs. What you're going to do is we're going to build you a release 1.0 of this because you didn't do that. I just looked. And
Ryan looked at the link. I put the link in the show notes. And so he went and looked, and now he's telling me, no, you did it wrong, bro.
No, it's fine. It's not hard. I mean, you have the basics there. I think it's just like clicking one more button and says build a release and tag this as 1.0. So this version will all be tagged as the 1.0 version. So dear listener, by the time you hear this, that should be fixed. So the link will have a 1.0. So if you want the what's in the book, that'll be 1.0. And then your mods will make 1.1 and beyond.
That's right. So that's what I'm doing. And there's still another one in this book to do. So I will be doing I'll be doing that one also and releasing it up here in GitHub. I know this book obviously had some authors from back in the day, and I know this book was from a publishing house. I don't know if I'm breaking any laws releasing this. Am I breaking any laws? I don't know.
I have no idea. I would credit the book in your README file.
I did.
Looks like you did. I see that. And then when we're going to talk about the different release versions in there, it's like put that in there as well, saying, hey, release 1.0 is going to be what's in the book. Any release beyond that will be stuff that you've done. So whoever finds this later in life can then go understand what's going on.
Yes. So I'm hoping to keep building this up with my examples of my programming journey and then eventually release my own beginning of games and do that. I know there's a huge marketplace for Commodore 64 text adventures, and I'm going to capitalize on that.
Yeah, for the big whopping price of free.
I know, it's terrible. So that's it. This has been the Rich episode, and that kind of brings me to my close about what's been going on.
No, it's great. This was definitely your travels and what's been going on. Like last episode was, or 2 episodes ago was my travels, and we had summer stuff and we're sharing them. And this is great that you guys are going to come along and listen to that. And of course, we got to get something vintage in there as well because that's who we are. We don't even really try so much. It just happens.
Just like playing the 16-bit game.
Right.
Not only did we game on the cruise, we brought a retro themed game.
Correct. It's like, yeah, take it that one. It's great. It's been an awesome adventure. I'm glad I heard about it, and I'm glad you're sharing with us, me and our listener, of what your adventure's been. I'm really looking forward to the VW next time I come back to Texas.
Yes.
Because last time you promised me a ride and it didn't happen.
This time we're taking it everywhere. We're going to just VW all around town.
Yeah. To your defense, I'm not sure if it was really street legal at the time that I was here last time.
It was. It wasn't street legal. And did we have rain issues too?
It didn't rain when I was there, I don't think, but you didn't have the registration and all that stuff sorted out.
That's right. It wasn't street legal. That is exactly right. And now we're cool in the gang. Yeah, we got all that done.
Yep. I know you were working on paperwork and trying to get the inspection or whatever you have to do, and whatever magic you have to do in Texas. Because some states let you drive any piece of crap you want.
Yeah.
Not that it's a piece of crap, but I'm just saying some states don't really care.
No, it's a step up. It's a step.
And I'm looking forward to seeing what's new going on, and we're going to have to go drive it around just because.
If anybody listening has a Commodore 64, go download the text file, or go download the Text Adventure and try it. It'll be terrible.
Or any of the emulators that are out there.
That's right.
You can play it on your own.
Yeah, Vice. Yeah, works super.
Use Vice. You don't have to have a physical box just because we have physical boxes of certain types. It doesn't mean that you need to, but there are plenty of ways to play these things and enjoy them. And I'm not going to tell you how to enjoy your vintage computing.
No.
I'm just happy you're doing it.
Yeah, vintage the way you vintage. Just like
Cool.
The C64 Max. People love it.
Yep. Perfect. All right. Well, I think this is about time to wrap it up. And thank you all. And thanks for coming along, and keep enjoying. Keep playing and have fun.
Talk soon. Bye, everyone.